But as I listen in, you can't even hear the power supply. If this thing's being stressed, you would never know it. Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today in this video, I'm going to be checking out the Be Quiet Dark Power Pro 1300 watt power supply. I did receive this sample directly from Be Quiet, but I want you to know that any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. That being said, if you're interested in this power supply or you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. Here's a look at the retail box and packaging. Everything looks great. This box is amazing, guys. This is such a premium look and feel. You'll see on the front, this is an 80 plus titanium rated power supply. Again, 1300 watts. This is also ATX 3.0, PCIe 5.0. This is a modular power supply as well. And you'll see some of those tech specs on the back side of the box for you. Now let's go ahead, let's open it up and see what's inside. Here are all the contents. First up, we have our user guide and manual. Same for the 1300 watt and 1600 watt versions. Multiple languages supported in this guide. They walk you through safety information, compatibility, specs, installation procedures, FAQ section. They also have their 10-year warranty information for you. And then everything again repeats in multiple languages. Next, you'll see we have some nice Velcro cable ties, some zip ties, bags of screws. Looks like we got our cable clips here. We have an overclocking key, so we can toggle that on and off, connect it to our power supply and add it to a slot in the back of our build. You'll see we have our drive cables here, main power cord and cable. We have our main power cables right here too. You'll see we have our 600 watt PCIe 5.0 cable there, clearly labeled for us for your next gen GPU users out there. And then lastly, we have the power supply unit itself. Let's look at that in more detail. All right, here's a look up close at the power supply. You'll see on the side right here, we have a couple of stickers to remove, protecting the finish on the Be Quiet Dark Power Pro branding on this unit. Nice brushed metal finish there. Same can be said on the other side, couple of labels to remove, additional tech spec and product information for you, 80 plus titanium marker. Look at the very top, you'll see that same brushed metal finish. We also have our warranty void if removed. Now let's look at it from the side. Holy smokes, look at all of our connection options here. This is amazing. Tons of drive options, overclocking key connection, motherboard, P8 for our CPU, PCIe, and then two PCIe 5.0 slots, both gonna be 600 watts for you. Flip it over to the other side, you'll see we have our toggle on and off switch there, and then our main power plug connection option. And you'll see nice slotted metal grill and mesh at the back. And now look at the very bottom. You'll see on the bottom right here, we have our one included fan. I can see the Be Quiet logo and branding peeking through the nice mesh cover on it. Now let's go ahead, let's plug it in and try it out. All right, so we got the power supply plugged in, powered on, and connected to our universal power supply tester. Blue is good, that's what we want to see. First up, we're looking at our 24-pin cable. That's what's connected right now. That's going to power our motherboard. So on the power supply, it's going to be these two hookup options right here. You'll also notice we have our drive cable connected, we have our CPU power, and we have a PCIe cable connected as well. So everything boots up, it's working as it should. We'll cycle through each of those measurements here so you guys can see. But first up, 24 pin cable here. So 5 to 5, 12 to 12, 3.2 to 3.3, 12.1 to 12, 5 to 5, and a score of 195 milliseconds. For that last PG value, you want to be within 100 and 500 milliseconds. So all is well right there. That's great to see. You may have noticed too, maybe you didn't. The fan is spinning, but you can't hear it at all. So very quiet. True to their name. Let's go to our PCI cable. So right there, 11.9 to 12, well within spec and range, great to see. CPU 12 to 12, awesome. And then lastly, we're looking at our SATA cable here, 5 to 5, 12 to 12, 3.2 to 3. So blue is good, all is well right here. Everything's working right out of the box at the proper voltages across the power supply. All right, we got our PC built with our power supply installed. Let's look at everything up close. Stepping inside the build, you'll see front and center we have our RTX 3080 FE GPU with our power connected right there up at the top. Nice just to have one cable, very clean there using our next gen connector. Then moving right along on the board, you'll see we have our main motherboard power right there. And then we'll go up and around to this corner. You'll see we have our dual CPU power cables connected. And down at the bottom, you'll notice the overclocking switch and how we have that installed right there. Just slots into one of your expansion ports. And we have the cable running down through and connecting to the back of the PSU. Here's your backside look here. So we got our main outlet power coming in with our toggle on and off switch. And then you'll see our overclocking button there with the light on, illuminated for us. Same thing, toggle on or off as you see fit. And here's our backside look. You'll see with that panel removed, our power supply slotted right in there. Looks great. There's all of our cables. Since this is fully modular, we only have to attach the cables that we need, helping to declutter our build. You'll see how we have everything routed here. So we have our GPU power going up through there. So right up here. And then you'll see our main motherboard power there, going around and in. And then our two CPU power cables up through the back side and then down and into the board. Plenty of room for future expansion here. Everything's still easy to get to right there in the back of the unit. For those wondering about our power consumption, right now we're using about 62 watts with the PC powered on at idle. We'll cycle through. You'll see kilowatt hours there. Then we have our 122.8 volts. And then we have about 0.5 amps being used right now at idle. Now with the unit being fully stressed, we have both the CPU and GPU being utilized at 100%. You'll see currently we're getting about 32 watts. Kilowatt hours. Then you'll see 120.5 volts. And 4.4 amps. On your screen, you'll see the stress test in action. There's a couple things we can learn. First, all the charts look really healthy. You're not seeing any spikes or dips. Everything's consistent across the board as we're stressing our system out, so that's always good to see there. You also notice the CPU we're using is the AMD 7700X CPU. Currently, we're getting around 144 watts. For our GPU, we're using the RTX 3080 Founders Edition. We're showing about 313 to 315 watts right there for everything. So far, so good. No issues at all. Even with this spec'd out and maxed out right here with our particular build, you'll notice we obviously have tons of headroom with the size of this power supply. But as I listen in, you can't even hear the power supply. If this thing's being stressed, you would never know it. The only thing you're going to hear in your build is the fans from your build. You're not going to hear that power supply unit at all. So this fan's moving a lot of air in the back, but listening in with my ear, very, very hard to even tell that the power supply unit's on. Trying to feel for the fan. I mean, this thing is very, very quiet. So stressing it out, no issues at all. And with its size, plenty of headroom for future expansion. If we want to beef up the CPU, the GPU, that sort of thing, we have plenty of room to work with. You know I'm always looking for an excuse to crack out the FLIR camera. So here we go. We got our hotspot here on the GPU, close to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's look at our cable connector. You'll see it getting nice and warm here. Call it 115 degrees Fahrenheit right at the connector end. Not bad. 315-ish watts flowing through there. 80 degrees, and then it continues to cool off the further away that we get. And then you'll see main motherboard cable here, about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Not bad, nice and cool. Make our way to our CPU cables here. A little bit warmer. Close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Not bad. And then we got some heat on the board and near the CPU. Power supply looking good though. One final check here. Right at around that 120 degree Fahrenheit mark. That GPU is getting toasty. Here's a look at the back side. Thought we could see in there a little bit. Internally showing around 85 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take a little. Nothing with the overclocking switch. And looking at the back side, you'll see the unit temp, about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. There's the GPU cable. Nice and cool still. Same with the main motherboard power cable there. And then we got our CPU cables. Looking good. Now I want to spend a minute talking about that overclocking key. You have two different options. If you want to install it this way like we have, great, you can do that. If not, they actually have a little jumper that you can just put in there as well too. For most people out there, your best bet is to just leave it off and not use it. If you still want to install it because it looks cool, that's fine. Whatever you want. Again, it's your build, your needs, etc. But anyways, basically what this does is it allows for an easy conversion to single rail 12 volt power. That's what you need to know here. For a lot of overclockers and PC enthusiasts out there, you'll find an added benefit depending on what you're doing. For me personally, I'd say the average consumer, that's not going to be something you're ever going to deal with. But anyways, they give you that option there. You have your multi-rail. You can quickly toggle that on and convert it to single rail if you prefer. So after installing and using and testing out this Be Quiet Dark Power Pro 13 power supply, let me share with you my final thoughts. First thing is, this PC build does not do that power supply justice. This power supply has so much headroom left over, which is great. So we have that in the future if we want to do and dabble in overclocking, that sort of thing. But for most of you out there, you'd have to be a pretty extreme PC enthusiast to really want to push your CPU and GPU to those extremes to take advantage of a large power supply like this. This thing's going to last for decades to come. Very quiet, super powerful, everything we need, latest and greatest ATX 3.0, PCIe 5.0. I really only have good things to say about this power supply. The presentation is top notch when you open it up out of the box. Everything is super premium. The only thing, at least for me, maybe it's still user error, but I had a really hard time with the cable clips. It was just easier in the end to just use zip ties versus all the nice clips that they give you in this bag. Really hard and difficult to push them in, attach them, and make it look right. It really bothered my OCD, so again, I just went with the zip tie route. So it's nice they gave us these, but I kind of wish they were a little bit more refined, a little bit easier to install. That would be my only nitpicky thing about this power supply. It has nothing to do with performance or anything along those lines. So this build didn't do it justice, but this thing is a massive, 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 super efficient power supply that will last you for years to come. You have a 10-year warranty, so you can buy with confidence.